This is the soil. I went ahead and sifted out of the compost bin the last video. Just gotta remember to put these in order. I went ahead and added that bag soil that I had, or some of it. I mixed it in, I watered it in, I pre-moistened it. Now I'm going to use that to pot up the marigolds. As you can see, not all of them came out. For some reason, this one had a lot more success as far as growing stuff. I'm not sure what the deal was, because I did end up sitting both of these with the same newer stock or whatever, the ones from the Dollar Tree. And so I don't know, even though they were literally in the same greenhouse next to each other, I don't know if one got more sun than the other, more water, whatever the case may be. And I did try and rotate them out, like move them back and forth and whatnot. That way they would go ahead and, alternate. But for some reason, we got a lot more in this one. So I'm going to dump out the soil that doesn't have anything growing in these, because at this point, I'm kind of done with it. I'm just going to mix it in with this, guys. I do have these containers. I do have more that I'm going to pot these up to. I kind of want to just go ahead and put these at the plot now, because I do want to plant them all around. But I do want these to get bigger, just because I have had some of the skunks or some whatever animal go through there. And so I do want to get them a much bigger size. That way when I plant them out, one, I can see how many I can actually fit. But two, that way I don't have the chance of some animal doing something with them. Anyway, I'm going to set you guys up on the time lapse, probably on top of the something. This still has gone on in history in my life. I think my mom made it or my dad made it. I don't know. Lord knows how many years ago. I honestly don't even know. I think she did it, and we've been using it. It's been perfect for sitting at the garden beds. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and start filling these up. Start pulling. Well, I'm gonna start by dumping out all the soil that doesn't have anything in it right in here. All right, so this isn't the best. I had to make a little bit of a mess. Went ahead and I didn't knock all of them in there, but all the ones that had all 4 cells basically with nothing in it, it all went in there. I tried to mix it up, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these, fill them up about halfway probably, drop them in, and then I'll go ahead and get these moved on to the next step. I'm going to go and set you guys up for that. So now, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to only fill them about halfway. This one came out as a whole thing. And just drop it in. And this is actually pretty dang dry. And so then the soil that I'm putting on top is not fully wet, but it is a little moisty. Yes, I am going to go ahead and water this in pretty well after the fact. I may actually just let it sit in this tray once I clean it out. I'm going to let it sit in this tray and to soak up the water. These are going to have worms in them just because this is the ones that came from the compost bin. I am going to go ahead and dump in, oh, it's not too loud, the rest of the soil that was in that container that didn't actually have any plants in them. These I watered last night. And so when I say that, and this guy just kind of falls apart. And so with this guy, I'm not going to want to use all that in there because that's the soil that it's been in. That's what I want to do now is I'm just going to put my finger through here, drop it in, and do that. And that's what might end up happening with a lot of these is I might have to do them that way. We do have some worms in here. It just depends on how well they come out or don't come out of their containers. And this stuff I'm going to dump over here just because this is the stuff that it was already sitting in. And so this soil's been around the block a minute. So, on to the next one. So now, I don't know how much you guys can see this, but I'm over here mixing in or mixing rather, the soil that I've already got. Okay, see, that one's pretty good. So we're gonna dump a little bit of that out, just so it's pretty close to the top. I am gonna backfill this just a hair above where it's at now. I'm not gonna necessarily shove it down, but I am going to kind of pat it down, and then we'll move it over here to the next one. And so I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm actually gonna save these, and I'm going to put it into the other ones just because. Oh, see, this one's got roots coming out the bottom. So this guy I'm gonna push down. This one's a little funky because I think it was getting a little too tall for that container. This was a little leggy. It might have just been the sun. And yeah, I realize I put it close to the edge, but we're gonna water these guys in. We're gonna let them reach to the stars. And that sounds corny as hell, but that's what we're gonna do. And so this one, I'm going to put that in there. And so now, here we go. Do the same thing. We'll hold it up. Whether or not this one is actually going to make it, I don't know. We're going to find out. But I did want to give them a little more time and some better soil. Because again, when you put these out into the plot, that bed is pretty well stocked with good soil. Because I initially started that bed with, we'll say, like a raised bed mix. I also mixed in some of the compost from the plot. And so I have been just topping it off with compost from the plot. I've been topping it up with whatever back soil I had. I think I even threw in some of the bag soil that I had set up for the home garden. The Harvest Supreme. And so that soil there is pretty good. And I even topped it off with some of the grow mulch, which actually does have its own let's say chemicals. Oh shit. It does have its own nutrients in it. This one is what you should not do, yank it out. And so it does have some roots on this, and so we're hoping that this will actually survive my stupidity there. But you know what? We're gonna see how this does. I'm gonna tamp it down. I'm gonna put on the next one. I'm gonna just keep moving on. I'm gonna grab the next one. I'm doing about half of these depending on when they come out as to how well they come out. If it comes out and you have to do what I just did on the other one, that's fine. I just didn't want to be the one to actually make the hole. Or sorry, to pull it out the way that I did. And so now, plants are pretty resilient. Of course, it depends on the kind of plant. Look at that root. It depends on the kind of plant that you're doing this with. Some take better to transplanting than others. Marigolds, I don't know how well they take to transplanting, but we're going to find out. I may Google after this. How well do marigolds like to be transplanted? Although I don't necessarily go by everything the internet tells me, because sometimes they may say, oh, such and such a plant doesn't like to be transplanted. I'm like, I've been transplanting that sucker for years. So every year I may grow it in a container or in some kind of cell. And guess what? It does just fine for me. Nasturtiums, for one. Although nasturtiums, for me, once they get into the soil, they will just keep growing. Although in the home garden, it hadn't they hadn't grown for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just old seed or what it was, but now I direct seeded a bunch of newish seeds and they've been growing great. In fact, some of them are growing too great. Anyway, and at the plot as well, because I tried planting them at the plot too, but I think it was just old seed and they hadn't come up. And so I had Kate, one of my garden besties, she gave me a 4-inch pot of, I think, Alaska variegated nasturtiums. That sucker took up a lot of my center bed. And once I pulled it out and started planting all kinds of stuff in that bed, I've got tons of nasturtiums coming up, and so I'm pulling them out now. And as much as I want the nasturtiums, I also don't want them to take over the whole bed, because they will. They're taking over like pretty much the whole center section of that bed. Anyway, and so now, there we go. Oh yeah, see, that one kind of fell apart. But again, you guys have seen me struggle with these, and I think I found the fact that it's just old seed. It might have just been a bad batch. These are the ones from the Dollar Tree, probably for most of them. Some of these might actually be the Naughty Mariettas. Quick recap on this stuff. I had these 2 trays full of these 4 packs. And I put in, I think, 2 or 3 seeds each. Put them only in about 1/4 of an inch down. I had 4 or 5 plants that actually came up. Let me grab some more of these containers. I think the mic is picking this up, but I don't know. Okay. Let me get closer. Here we go. I got a bunch more. Anyway, I had only about 4 of them that came up. Did some research, posted on threads. People were like, nah, dude, it's just you. I'm like, all right. And so people suggested, just put them on top. Somebody said, literally said, I sprinkle them in my garden like I'm a fairy, like fairy dust. And I was like, all right, bet. And so this is now technically the 3rd video of marigolds. Oh my god, this smells amazing. Marigolds, especially French marigolds, they smell really strongly. That is part of the reason I wanted to grow them so much, so I can put some into my root knot nematode bed, just so it can help with that. But I also wanted them all over the plot and all over the whole garden, just because I wanted the companion. Sorry, my nose is annoying me. The whole companion planting, the smell of these specific, just French marigolds in general, they push, not push, but they keep bad bugs away. That's basically what it boils down to. Anyway, and so they weren't doing all that hot, and so, oh Jesus. And some people are like, oh yeah, no, I have no problem with them, da 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 da. Well, I went through and they said, you know, just push them into the soil, and so I did with a lot of these. They're like, you just gotta keep them moist. I tried to, not all of them like I showed earlier in this video, or didn't show depending on how I edit this. One full tray had some, the other full tray had a lot more, even after I did reseed. And so at this point, I'm just going with what I can get, or I'm taking what I can get, and just to see how these do for me. And honestly, as long as I get in just enough, I'm happy. But yeah, I put them right on top of the soil, tried to keep them moist, kept them inside of the little greenhouse, and it did great. At least much better. I think it was just a bad batch of seeds. So now I'm done with that one tray, and so I'm moving on to the rest of them. So again, I'm gonna mix these up. with the seed or with the soil that I have. I did water these just to try and hold it together. I did water them last night, not tonight. What you probably want to do is you probably want to go ahead and water them in, let them sit for a little bit, let that soil hold together with all that water, and then that way when you pop them out, they don't fall apart. It's either that or I could have just fed these with some fish emulsion, let them get bigger, and then that way the root ball on these would be bigger, and then that way it would hold the soil better. But I'm kind of done being patient with these things, and so I just kind of want to get them out and into a bigger container. And so then that way, I can just move on with my life. Gardening does teach you patience. I have gotten a lot of patience out of it, but after a certain point, especially after the issues I had with these this year, I just kind of want to get it done. Normally, what I do with these, and I think I've mentioned these in the other Marigold videos, is I usually go to my growers, big supplier, and I buy these in 6-packs. And they do phenomenally well because these are the ones that they grow for me, and I really don't have to deal with all this for this. But this year, I let it go too far. By the time I got to the growers, all they had was the 4-inch pots. And so, ever so slightly pull that out, that way you get the whole root. By the time I got to them, they had already potted them up to 4-inch pots, and then the 6-inch pots that they had, they'd already been spoken for. And so if I would have bought a couple flats, the 4-inch pots, it would have cost me about the same amount of money as a 6-inch as far as for a flat, but I would have gotten a lot less plants because the pots are bigger. They take up more space. Granted, I probably would have got bigger plants, but I would have got less plants at that. Granted, I don't know that I would have needed more than probably 1 or 2 flats, but I still would have gotten less. And if I can get more for less, I'm all for it. See, that's the problem. I tried, I think part of it is also that because a lot of it is worm castings. It is soil, but a lot of it is worm castings. It's a lot of little particles. And again, the roots on these are not that big just because these are small plants. So I have already finished 1 full flat of marigolds. So now, let me get this out of the way. And I will go ahead and water that in. Once I get this other one set up. 2, 4, 6, 8 maybe? So I don't know that it's, going to fill up this whole container. This one. Okay. There we go. Alright, sweet. So now, I'm going to mix this up. I think this soil is a decent mix. If anything, I might add some more, or the only thing I probably would add would be perlite. Maybe just plant food, but this is like straight compost. Well, about half of it is compost. And so I think we're going to be okay with that. You don't always have to. Oh, and I do have a pepper over there that I need to pot up. Volunteer pepper. No idea what it is. And so yeah, with these, your best bet is probably let them grow up a little more. But did I just snap that? Nope, but let me go ahead and top that off. So then these guys can be pretty good here. Okay. And even it's funny because here you can even see some of the seeds are still on top. So might end up with volunteers all over the garden anyway, which is fine. I figure I'm gonna end up with volunteers anyway, just because I'm using the compost, homemade compost. I'm very happy with that new thing over here, because in that way I can do them in smaller batches, and it's not going to be that much of a pain in the ass. Yeah, I definitely should have. You definitely want a bigger root ball on these when you transplant. I think I kind of figured out how to really deal with the 6-packs on these. These are the Epic 4-packs. The 6-packs I think I've got down. And just because they're so much smaller, it doesn't take a whole lot of root mass. With these, because they're much bigger, it does. And so I know that now that I'm doing this, since they're getting essentially a whole new batch of soil in them that's going to feed them really well. These should take right off. Okay, so that one's done. We're going to go over here. We're going to grab the next batch. See, this one came out. It's funny because I would have thought that if they were wetter, they would have been better. Wetter apparently isn't always better, boys and girls. Problem is now they may become hydrophobic, meaning that they are going to be repelling water, and we are going to have to water them in more gently. There we go. And so now I really am thinking of just setting these on the table over here, bottom watering, and that way they will they'll suck up the water much better. Besides, I want them to have the feeding. Although I do have some other stuff, because I'm trying to get rid of crap out of the house. I do have other stuff that I just want to move. So this one is bigger. The holes on the bottom of these are really good. They're a decent size, but they can only do so much. Let's see. I think on this one, drop your finger in there. There we go. Wow, that was a much bigger flower. So I did really get a whiff of that. And just based on that last one, this one might go about the same. I see. So I'll go ahead and top this off. We'll pat it down. We'll make the hole in the middle. Drop it in. Push in the sides. There you go. Oh, that was a dry root ball. Wow, these smell a lot more just because they're bigger. Okay, there we go. So now this one because it's oh, hold on, let's see. Oh, that's actually not that bad. Let's pour some of that out. And yeah, this is just years of practice, not just with marigolds, with plants in general. Tomatoes are like this, peppers are like this. I mean, most plants are like this. You want to go ahead and be careful. You want to make sure that you got a decent, as much of the roots as possible. That way you can do that. Obviously, as long as you're putting it into a bigger container, you obviously don't want to quote unquote pot up into a smaller container, because then you're not really potting up, are you? Put your hands on either side. Oh, perfect. I think there's a worm in this one. So we're going to, oh, yeah, there was. Okay. In the 4-pack. In the 4-cell. You know, I did all that and then it just kind of flopped. So let me try and put this in the middle here. Okay. Just because I'm pressing these in a little at the top tells me that I definitely want a bottom water. That way the water can soak up to the bottom. Okay, yeah, that one's pretty much done for. Anyway, I think, oh, the pepper. Not the marigold like all the other ones, but I did have some volunteer peppers out of that. This year I had started a ton of seeds. I just want to see what the hell would go because I have so many. A good chunk of my peppers didn't even come up. And just because they're older seed, they didn't even come up. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up mixing it in. I ended up mixing in the soil of those with some worm castings, and I don't know if it was in the soil that I used originally or if it was in the worm castings. I had all, like, this is like pepper number, I don't know, 3, 4. And so these are volunteer peppers. No freaking idea what they are. Not a clue. Not a chance in hell. So we're gonna try and pot these up. This peppers didn't do all that great for me this year. I can thank my buddy Kate. She gave me, I think, 8 pepper plants. I know one of them I killed because I snapped because I wasn't careful enough. I don't think I had told her. So if you're watching this, Kate, sorry. I did get a lot of them from her that I have, all of them except for one, that I have been able to get them to grow well. I think it's like 3 or 4 jalapenos. I had another one, another 2. One of them I know is the shishito. The other one I'm not sure yet. And then the other one, the last one, I want to say it's an ahi dulce just based on what she grows and on the leaf pattern because it's a part of the Chinense family. So it's basically almost like a heatless habanero, kind of like a habanada, but with really good flavor. One of my favorite peppers, along with the piquino, which this year she didn't grow. I think she lost a lot of peppers because of that early heat that we got, and so she didn't get any. So when I asked her for some, she didn't have any. I bought a full pack. Oh, see, that's perfect. See, all the roots down here. And this one is a little dry, so I think that's part of the reason. Let's put this here. There you go. And so I ended up buying a full seed pack of piquinos, the one from Botanical Interest. And those actually come dyed with the different colors because they're all mixed in, the yellow and the red. They come dyed, and so I just went ahead and planted them all. I got, I think, about a dozen plants out of those, and I gave her half and I kept the other half. Because that's how it is in the gardening community. You take care of each other. Bartering and just taking care of your fellow gardener. Gardeners are some of the nicest people. Granted, not all of them, but I haven't met a gardener I haven't liked. Anyway, pepper. No idea what variety it is, but I potted up that full tray of marigolds, and then I have almost a half a tray minus the one pepper I just slipped in there. So now I have a tote full of probably not the best soil, but decent soil. Because again, homemade compost. So let me get these guys out of the way. Oh, I didn't realize how much soil was in here. Oh, here we go. There we go. Alright. So now, because I want to use these, oh, well, you know what? With these guys. Oh, let's go water these. I'm gonna water these. Okay. I do need a water. Oh, no, you know what? I wanted to go ahead and get these soaked underneath. That's what I wanted to do. Problem is that I think that this table is slanted that way, so I'm not going to get a very, very good coverage. So what I want to do is let me go ahead and get the fish emulsion. One and two. There we go. Okay. So I can actually put more stuff in here because I got rid of the stuff that hadn't grown. So now what I might do is I might actually put in some of those beans. And I can do them directly in these. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do the 9 beans. But yeah, now let's do that. Alright. So I have, let's get rid of these guys. Because beans grow pretty easily and stuff. And with the crap that I've gone on at the plot, as far as whatever's digging my shit up, I had actually thought about doing this earlier this week or last week. Today's only Tuesday this week. I don't know how to count. 2, 4, 6, 7. I'd rather not. I'd rather do them in bigger containers because I want them to go to the plot in as big as I possibly can. And this essentially would be my next, so to speak, succession. Honestly, I didn't even think about succession sowing these, but just the way the stuff is worked out at the plot, that's just kind of how it works out. You plant the stuff, you hope it does well. If it doesn't do well, then you start more stuff. And so now what I'm basically doing is I'm just filling in the gaps. Then that means that as I'm filling in these gaps, the different plants are different stages, which is great because at least that way I'll have something going in the plot, and we're not eating all of our beans, or we're not getting all of our beans at once. So sometimes it's almost a good thing when not everything grows up. Imagine having all these beans going all at once at the plot, and I'm gonna end up with a ton of freaking beans. Even with the beans at home, it's literally only 5 or 6 plants, and they're producing pretty well. That's a stick. In fact, let me go check real quick as to how much space I have over there. Let's see if the mic can pick all this up. So I can fit some more in this container, the 9, and I might be able to, well, let me see how many actual seeds I have for those. Because if I can't even fill those things with seeds, all of them, then what the hell's the point of filling all the other bins? Oh, let me go back around. So I did stop by Dollar Tree recently, and I picked up some more marigolds. I picked up some more beans. Oh, I picked up some alyssum too. Okay, so I only picked up 2 more beans, and I might 2 more seed packs of beans. These are bush beans. These are contender. So these, it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So drop, 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 drop. Okay, now I know I'm gonna have more than 2 in here. Oh, there's another, that might be an empty seed pack though. So this is gonna be my next section sowing. Probably about another 8 in there, 6 to 8. And so for now, I'm gonna cover these up. So this video is gonna be about potting up marigolds, succession sowing some beans. Beans are pretty well hardy, so they don't need phenomenal soil, they just need soil. Beans are meant to fill in the gaps, and they're meant to bring nitrogen into the soil. And the soil at this point is pretty moist. I just kind of wanted to let them get settled. That way we have good contact. Okay. So now we're going to have beans. So beans, marigolds, and peppers. Pepper. Single pepper. Okay. And so now I'm using my greenhouse as a greenhouse. I do have the other attachments or the other covers for these, but honestly, the greenhouse this year it's been amazing to have it. Yeah, the zippers are all screwed up, but simple fact is I have these guys, and so then that'll hold them down. In the hot heat of the summer, I might be planting more stuff in here. I'll just have this open the whole time. That way I don't get all that heat trapped in there. But I think that's actually going to be it for this video. Go ahead and hit the bell notification, the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.